All right, hello. So today I'm going to be trying to teach you guys how I think you should study if you're in the first year of medical school. Now in SU, that's term one and term two. Um, I've made a fake lecture. I'll be going over that lecture with you guys, and I'll show you how to take notes and how you can turn those notes into Anki cards. And this is the best way I think you can study for term one and term two. Now, side note here, I would say if you just finished term one and out of five exams, if you got above 90 in four of them, you shouldn't study like this. You should study uh, the way I'm going to describe in another video. That's going to be labeled something like this is how year two students should study. Okay, so if you got above 90 in four out of your five exams in term one, then in term two you should study like a second year, I think. And there's going to be another video that explains how that works, but you can look for that in my playlist. Okay, so for this video, let's get started. I've made this fake lecture because legally I can't use SU lectures, and so I've made this fake one, and it's super short. It's on uh, Prader-Willi syndrome, and it's like 4 or 5 slides. But I'm gonna be taking notes, and I'm gonna turn those notes into Anki cards, and then I'm gonna show you how it works. If you don't know how Anki works, I'm gonna make another video. Put it in like the same playlist. The playlist is gonna be labeled something like "How to Study," something like that. Uh, and so set up your Anki first, and then watch this video. I think this is the best way to study as a first year. It involves you going over the slides, taking notes, and then you making flashcards out of those through Anki, which is super streamlined. And I really think it can improve your mark by like 10 to 15%, depending on what you already score. And I think it's a good way of, it's a complete system where you're not skipping any parts, and it's kind of clear what you need to do. So you're not skipping any key steps. All right, so let's get started with this lecture. It's titled "The Fake Me Lecture on WPS, Willie Parter Syndrome." Right? Okay. Sorry, it's Parter Willie syndrome. Not really good at pronunciations. I know most of you aren't either, and this is particularly a hard one to pronounce. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so the way I'm gonna take notes, I like to use bullet points. And now, let's with bullet points. A good thing is you can hit tab and it will make like a sub point. I'm gonna be taking notes, and then each note is gonna have kind of like sub like little things that are important within that, right? So let's see for this slide. There's two ways you can have Prader-Willi syndrome: either microdeletion or genomic imprinting. So Prader-Willi syndrome can be caused by microdeletion and imprinting, right? This is my first point, right? And then imprinting can be uniparental disomy, right? Imagine I don't know what uniparental disomy is. I'll just go up here and search uniparental disomy. So uniparental disomy occurs when person. I'll just read this little thing and copy it into my notes, right? It's important also to read and learn what it actually means. In real life, I don't use Google. I use Amboss, which is this thing. I suggest you guys get it, whether you're term one or term 10 or you're a fellow or whatever. I think Amboss is really great. It's kind of like Google for medical things. You can see I searched it up before. All right, so let's proceed. All right, so uh, and it talks about epigenomic imprinting. I will do the same thing. I'll go read on what imprinting is, and I add another bullet point there explaining what imprinting is. It's important you take the extra step and learn what these things mean and not like suffice to what's on your slides, because that extra step you take will really help your memory when you understand the actual mechanism behind a disease. So I actually have a slide here explaining what uniparental disomy is. It says when two copies of a gene are received from one parent, right? And in WPS, the both copies are they come from mother. So I think this is particularly an important fact. I added into my notes, right? And then we got diagnosis. So I think like diagnosis is an important topic, but it doesn't really fit in with any of these. So I'm gonna put diagnosis here, like another entire point. And then I'm gonna be like what? Fish, which is fluorescence in situ hybridization, which if I don't know what it is, then again I'll look it up and I'll like add a point here. And then methylation, right? So methylation testing, right? Now I don't know if you guys do know or not. It depends on whether you finish term one or just going into term one. But methylation is what silences DNA. So maybe I'm just gonna add methylation silences DNA, right? Okay. And we got another slide on clinical features. So I'll go clinical features, and practically I should know everything. So I'm just gonna copy all of these here. But in real life I wouldn't copy. I would read and understand each one of them and uh, summarize in my own words. So hypotonia, hyperphagia. So now I kind of the way I already formatted this is what I would want our notes to look like. It's kind of like hyperphagia leads to diabetes. DM2 is diabetes mellitus 2, right? And hyperphagia leads to sleep apnea because they get fat. Fat people have higher chance of getting sleep apnea. And we got gastric distension and rupture because they eat too much. We got choking episodes again for whether it's eating too much or for sleeping apnea, whatever. And then we got cryptorchism and hypogonadism, developmental delay, whatever. Okay, so I have my notes. Let's say this was like a super tiny DLA, which I think it might even be a DLA. I have my notes. I can get rid of my lecture now. I have everything important in my mind. So I'm going to use my Anki app to create cards for that. Now, in order to do that, you need to again watch the video on Anki that I'm going to make, and I'm going to put it in the same playlist as this. But once you have your Anki set up, you can go on the Add button. You can choose these settings. So close Anki Master Volume 3 and whatever folder you choose to put it on. I'm putting it in the folder called New Folder. And so I'm going to put this on half of the screen, put my notes on the other half, right? Okay, so pay attention here. This is how I'm going to turn these uh, into flashcards, and it's going to be really fast. So I'm going to, let's say for diagnosis, I want to make this into a card. I'm going to copy this, paste it here, right? And now on Windows, Control Shift C, and on Mac, Command Shift C. So I have a Windows computer. So let's say I wanna, let me explain it this way. So the way it works, you highlight a part of text, right? You hit Control Shift C or Command Shift C, and then the way Anki works is that it will make cards out of that. So let's say the best way to do it is just to explain it. So I'm gonna highlight fish. I'm gonna hit Control Shift C. It's gonna insert this little code here and here automatically, right? And then so when I'm going through my cards, the first thing it does is that it shows this card, shows diagnosis is like this thing or this thing. But the first time it kind of blocks off this thing, right? So it says, what is the diagnosis? It's blank and methylation and testing. And then my job is to guess blank. So for the second time I'm seeing this card, maybe it's gonna be the same day or different day. It's gonna blank this one out, like methylation testing, right? It's gonna be my second card, and then the third card is gonna be what methylation. What does it do DNA? It silences DNA. So it's a skill to know what to highlight and what not to highlight, but it's a skill that you can get good at really fast, right? So here, for example, my diagnoses, let's add these cards. So these three cards are added to new folder. And let's go to Anki, find new folder. This is new folder. You can see it has three new cards. Let's see what it looks like. So it says diagnosis, right? First item, this is the first thing we uh, highlighted. If you remember, what was it? It was fish. Hit space, it's fish, right? And now I also have amboss here. It's the same thing I mentioned earlier. It kind of, if you put your mouse on it, it brings an explanation as to what it is we're talking about. And as you can see, it has one for everything. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It also has this mode, which if I click on that, it just opens up a window that I can search whatever I want here. If I want to read on more on, let's say I want to read on more, read more on fish, I can click on it there and it keeps my window here from Anki, but it also opens up this explanation for fish. I can read about it 10 minutes. Now I'm an expert in fish. I know a lot about fish now. Am I gonna remember it the first time you do this? No, but still having those extra nuggets of knowledge long term will build up your medical knowledge, right? Let's get back to making our cards. I don't know what I close Anki. So I'm gonna make another card for you guys just so you see like something with more complicated than like this. So you see how it works a little bit better. So again, go to add. And so this time we have, so I'm gonna use this. Actually, let's take the whole thing, take the whole point. So first I'm gonna be like, what syndrome, right? Willy syndrome. I'm gonna hide this. Can be caused by two things. So I'm gonna highlight these two things. I wanna make sure I know them. And uniparental disomy. So this is explanation for uniparental disomy. So occurs when a person receives two copies of the chromosome or part of the chromosome from a single parent. So when a person receives what, I'm gonna highlight. I'm gonna highlight these, and this is gonna be my third card. And then lastly, it's really important to know that in WPS, the both copies are from the mother, right? So this is four cards here. WPS, maculation and imprinting, definition of uniparental disomy, and mother, right? I'm gonna add these to my cards. So now if we go back to Anki, go back to our new folder, I have 7 new cards now. What was it that can be caused by microdeletion and imprinting? It's Prader-Willi syndrome, right? Again, it has all the needed, things that you could possibly want to know highlighted, right? So it's not showing me the other cards that we have. So like, if you remember, for the first set of cards we created three spots, and for the second one we created 4 spots. It's not showing me all 7. It's because of the algorithm that Anki has. It doesn't want to show me the same cards over and over again. So it will try to show me those cards later. So that's how you study. You just to summarize, you go over your lectures, right? Like this. You have your lectures on one side, and then at this point, you've already listened to your lectures, so you know what's going on. And now you take notes. This is when you do your post read or whatever. I personally don't do it like this, but when you do your post reads, you take notes, and then once you take your notes, turning your notes into Anki cards is going to be really fast. And at the end of the night, you spend an hour or two going over your Anki cards. Now, the good thing about doing Anki is that let's say if you're on the fifth module, you're still reviewing things from the first module, but you're spending like 5 minutes a day reviewing stuff from the first module. That is super, super valuable in medicine because most often what you learn in module one is going to help you in module two, it's going to help you in module three, it's going to help you in module four. And most importantly, it's going to help you in STEP and it's going to help you become a better doctor because medicine is kind of like when you're thinking about a single problem, you have to consider it from various different angles, and you don't really know like if the answer is going to be related to which module, especially as you go further and as there's going to be more cumulative questions. It's just super super valuable for you to keep the knowledge you have from module one fresh when you're writing your sixth, seventh exam when you're in second year, right? So I highly recommend using Anki. I also highly recommend buying Amboss. It has a free, it has a free kind of like a trial, so you can use it and see if you like it. And I recommend kind of like taking notes like this in a hierarchical fashion and turning these notes quickly to Anki cards. Anything else I want to talk about? Oh yeah. Again, if you finish term one and if out of your five exams you got four exams over 90, then I recommend you watch the How to Study as a Second Year Student video. I kind of like go over a different method, and that is what I personally use. But I think using this method, it's less time consuming and it's kind of like has a lower risk of not working. So because it's so lecture focused. The method I'm going to teach the second years and the first year students who are consistently getting above 90 involves using a lot of external resources that is ultimately going to get you more prepared for step two. It's going to get you more prepared for doing hard questions, but it's not the most efficient one in terms of doing well on the exams here. So I only recommend that if you're second year or if you are already like doing well. But if you're getting below 90s consistently, or if you're getting above 90 once in a while, I recommend going with this method. Um, it's really, I feel like it's really stupid proof. There's nothing you can't screw this up. You can just you'll take notes from the lectures and you'll put them into uh, card format and review your cards. If you have Amboss, that will just make it much better. Oh, one more thing I want to show you is that let's say if you have a diagram, let's see, if you have a diagram, you can add that diagram in to Anki using this feature, right? So let's say this is my diagram, the clinical features I want to use as a diagram. So first I'm going to crop this with my cropping tool, right? I'm going to use this button over here. And let's say I want to know hypotonia and I want to know what does hyperplasia lead to in this syndrome, and maybe I want to know what else is it that combines cryptorchism, which is hypogonadism, right? So I can add these. I usually go with hide one, guess one. I'll add these to my cards, and when I go back to Anki, where was it? You see it like this. So this is super helpful. Cryptorchism and what? Hypogonadism, right? This is super helpful when you have like anatomy you want to deal with. You have like kind of a giant chart of like some bunch of enzymes or something you want to memorize. But I highly recommend, integrating anything you have into your like master note-taking document being this guy, right? And so in reality, I would put a picture of like, with this picture, if it's like an anatomy picture or something like that, I'll put it here and have it here. But then this way you're actively reviewing everything via Anki. All right. So if you wanna, in this channel, I make videos for explaining some of the practice questions that are already online. Make videos explaining how to study. Um, if you want to learn more about this, check my channel out. hit me up on Instagram. If you have any questions, I I don't respond that fast, usually like a week or two later, but I'll get to you at some point. And yeah, good luck with your first year. If you've just finished term one, good job. If you're just starting term one, it's going to be an exciting ride. And make sure you reach out and make sure you ask for help if you are feeling like things aren't going your way. I'll see you in the next video.